Well, good afternoon, everybody. I've got a few prepared words. I'm Chief Jeff Calvert, and I've had the honor of serving this community and other law enforcement agencies now for over 30 years. And I've been with the city of Laguna Beach since 1996. Over the years, I've seen firsthand the devastating impact of wildfires, both emotionally and financially. The memory of the 1993 Laguna Beach fire still echoes in our lives today, reminding us of the deep toll such disasters leave behind. As we've all seen, wildfires can escalate very quickly, and the ongoing devastation in Los Angeles is a stark reminder of the risk we face here in Laguna Beach. During a wildfire event, the primary responsibility of law enforcement is to protect life, starting with facilitating mass evacuations. In 2019, I had the opportunity to visit Paradise, California after the Camp Fire disaster. What I witnessed was eye-opening. The speed of the fire, the overwhelming challenges they faced, and the importance of having a strong, flexible evacuation plan. It reinforced to me just how critical it is to prepare proactively. Here in Laguna Beach, we've worked hard to improve our preparedness. The city has invested over $25 million in wildland fire mitigation efforts, which included an evacuation modeling study that helped us understand how long it will take to evacuate our city under different scenarios, considering road closures, impaired neighborhoods, and even the time of day. The findings are sobering. We have 3 ways in and 3 ways out. Under normal road conditions, it would take 4 hours to evacuate, and even longer if critical routes like Laguna Canyon Road or North Coast Highway were blocked. To put it in perspective, the tragic fires in Lahaina, Maui, Paradise, and even the Pacific Palisades all occurred within a matter of hours because of the high winds and limited evacuation routes. This is the very risk we face in Laguna Beach, which is why it's so important that we are prepared and that we are here today to prepare now. Our current evacuation plan divides the city into 22 zones, which have been updated and made available on the city website, along with the evacuation routes. I encourage all of you to familiarize yourself with the evacuation zone that you live in and make sure you're ready with a go bag in case an evacuation warning or order is issued. We've tested our evacuation procedures several times, including during the 2018 Aliso fire and the recent Emerald and Coastal fires. One critical takeaway is that many residents don't want to leave. Or if they do, they don't take essential items with them like medications, medical devices, or pets. This is a mistake we've seen in many fire-prone areas, and we have to learn from it. Our message is simple. If you're ordered to evacuate, do so immediately. Don't wait. Time is crucial, and every minute counts. Please remember, no matter how much we value our homes, they are never more important than your life, your family's safety, or the life of the emergency responders who may be risking their own life to save you. I'd like to introduce Captains Pat Carey and Scott Hammond, who responded to the Palisades fire. They will share an overview of their experiences and the challenges we face as a city. Following them, Emergency Operations Coordinator Sarah Limonis will discuss our alert and warning systems, and Captain Mike Peters will discuss our evacuation plan. Thank you again for being here for this town hall meeting. Your commitment to our community safety is truly appreciated. And if you will, please hold your questions until the end, and we'd be happy to address them. Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you, Chief, for those words and the introduction. As Chief Calvert said, my name is Pat Carey. I'm a captain here at Fire Station 1. I've been with the city now for almost 15 years. And this is Scott Hammond sitting next to me. He's been with the city almost 20 years. He's a captain at Fire Station 2. Both of us were deployed on the Palisades incident and spent approximately 2 weeks there. And this today is going to be an overview of our takeaways and ensure that the public is adequately prepared for you and your families in the event of a wildfire or a natural disaster. The objectives that we want to ensure of are that we obviously review the Palisades incident statistics. We're going to report on some of our operational assignments from our strike team, which was 1890 Charlie. Review the operational conditions and hazards that we encountered while we were on assignment, and then review some lessons learned from a community evacuation standpoint. So in a nutshell, the Palisades incident statistics were that there was 23,707 acres were burned, 6,837 destroyed homes, 973 damaged structures. There was 12 civilian fatalities, 3 civilian injuries, 1 firefighter injury. 105,000 residents were evacuated by January 11th. This was the 10th deadliest and 3rd most destructive fire in California history. And resources were pulled from California, obviously Canada, Mexico, basically all across the Western United States. And in total, there were 5,600 firefighters, 551 fire engines, 42 water tenders, 42 helicopters, 25 plus fixed wings, 48 bulldozers, and 101 hand crews. So this fire was first reported at approximately 10:30 the morning of January 7th, 2025, and quickly grew to 200 acres within the first 20 minutes. Fire reached 700 acres by approximately 2:10 in the afternoon, and then CAL FIRE reported approximately an hour later that the fire was now 1,262 acres. This total that I had just talked about in the previous slide with the 5,677 firefighters does not include the response from the federal government with the National Guard, and it also does not include the PD response. This is solely the firefighting efforts. So due to the red flag warnings in Southern California, our OES 1890 Charlie strike team was pre-positioned in Orange County as a quick reaction force to respond to any wildland incidents in the Southern California region. And our strike team consists of 5 Type 3 fire engines from Anaheim, Costa Mesa, Laguna Beach, Fullerton, Orange City, and our strike team leader was from Fullerton. We arrived at the Palisades incident at approximately 7:30 p.m., and our 5 engines were assigned to structure protection with the goal of protecting life and property. On our initial deployment, we worked for approximately 40 to 46 hours that first 2 nights before we got a rest period off the line. Our first night, when we arrived in the Palisades and immediately got to work in extremely difficult situations and conditions, our resources encountered multiple structure fires, sustained winds at approximately 80 miles per hour with significant ember casts complicating our efforts to contain the fire. Sorry about that. So issues that hampered our ability to meet our above objectives of protecting life and property were first and foremost residents who did not want to evacuate when initially asked. We had down power lines, and we treat all power lines as energized until otherwise deemed that they're not. Our water system was obviously taxed by the fire resources, by power outages, by burned homes that were collapsing that still had water on, and engines that can pump 1,000 gallons per minute on these massive homes. Additionally, we had a bunch of homes that were heavily fortified with locked gates that made access extremely difficult when there was power outage. To get inside of those structures, get lines around them, and put out fire. Here are some of the still photos that were taken from our strike team the night of that first operational period. On the left, you can see the significant ember cast, and you can see multiple homes on fire. Here's a couple other fire shots from, again, our firefighters out on the line, just trying to do their best that they can to protect the homes and the structures with the limited water and resources that we had. So why I bring this up is because after our 40 hours of work, we got a day off and then came back on the line on January 10th for our next operational period. When we go out on these, we work 24 hours on, 24 hours off typically, but during our initial attack assignments, we can be on the assignment for up to 48 hours until adequate resources arrive. So when we got to our second operational assignment, our objectives were to kind of mop up the area, locate and extinguish hotspots, limb up trees, start clearing roads, securing residential utilities, and identifying unburned structures and making sure that they were safe. And the difference between what you see in this video that I'm about to play and what you saw the previous videos is this is in daytime. And so you can see all the hazards that we truly are encountering that you don't see at night. So I'm going to play that video here. So right here on the right, you'll see some down power lines, trees all across the roads in multiple areas. We had to get out with chainsaws and clean up to clear debris from the roads. Multiple vehicles that were abandoned, that were on fire, preventing hazardous situations. We had some roads in this area that were not passable due to down power lines crossing the streets, cars burned in driveways. And so why is this important? Here in Laguna Beach, when we receive the initial report of a vegetation fire, we have our response plans. And this is from OCFA, and this is what we get in a high watershed response. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is when we get a report of a vegetation fire and we're getting all of these resources in, these are resources that need to get into the community, that need to ensure that our objectives are met of protecting life and property. And if you count the resources, not including the helicopters, the air tankers, we're getting about 70 pieces of apparatus coming on a high watershed response if it's a red flag day. And so the need for us to be able to get these resources in the community and for residents to get out before this happens is huge. As I stated in our initial operation period, a lot of it was hampered by our abilities to get in because we still had residents that either one, refused to leave, or two, left once it was too late and they were driving over hose lines, they were blocked in by power lines, et cetera. It just made our job extremely difficult. So as I said, why does this matter? Obviously, the fire and police resources need access into the communities to protect life and property. When mandatory evacuations are not adhered to, this creates significant operational challenges for first responders. And so this leads to our ready, set, go. That is what we use to inform the community to get ready. And to get ready, we mean getting ready for wildfires by hardening your homes now, creating defensible spaces, and choosing fire smart landscape. We have this zone 0, which is the 0 to 5 feet, which is areas that we truly want our ember resistant zones in. And then we have our zone 1, which is basically 5 to 100 feet from the structures, where we want kind of our lean, clean, and green zones. Next is get set. Get set for wildfires by preparing both your home and your family for potential evacuations. Don't wait until the last minute. So create a plan. Know your evacuation routes, as we'll talk a little bit about later, and how to secure your utilities, such as gas, electric, and water. And once they are secured, know how to kind of function in your house when those are turned off, i.e. if your electricity is turned off, do you know how to open your garage manually? Additionally, take photos and videos of the inside and outside of your home for insurance purposes. Stay informed through Nixle and Alert OC, and pack a go bag, papers, so important documents, prescriptions, pictures, personal computers, and plastic credit cards, money. Have that ready to go. And go. Increase your chances of survival by being ready to go at a moment's notice. Stay alert, stay informed, and be prepared. We've got 22 separate evacuation zones within the city of Laguna Beach. And I always tell residents that I come in contact with is to know two ways out. Because if you are ingrained in going to your house the same way every single time, what happens when that one way in is blocked off out, right? By a power line, by a car, whatever it may be. So having two ways out increases your chances of getting out safely. So in a nutshell, Ready, Set, Go is prepare before the fire starts. Educate yourself and others about evacuation zones and routes and available notification warning programs. Know multiple ways out. Early evacuations prevent a stressful situation from turning into panic. Panic can lead to irrational decision-making, which I'll show here in the video, and follow the directions of emergency personnel and emergency warning notifications. We've got our Nixle and Alert OC. Sorry. Thank you. So this is on Sunset Boulevard. I'm sure everybody has seen these videos, but these are the pictures of all the cars that were blocking our access into the Palisades from people that panicked. They were coming out in the middle of like extremely chaotic situation with smoke and fire burning around them, and they panicked. I think it started a domino effect. One or two cars stopped, multiple cars stopped, and then it just got a backup. And then we, at that time, were not able to get in from Sunset. So if you bring that back here and you think about that happening in, say, Bluebird, or if you think about that happening on Skyline or Temple Hills, it's an issue. And so that's why we want everybody to know two ways out and be prepared. Some of the last things I want to talk about is a lot of people ask the questions of why, when we get evacuated, are they kept away from their home for so long? And why can't they come in? And there's this hesitancy to evacuate because they feel like they're going to be gone for so long. This is here in our division of the Palisades. This happened. This was 8 days after the fire. And what they do every single operational period is they fly drones over the fire and they gather intel. All those red dots that you see on the map are still hotspots and heat signatures that they are picking up, that we are sent out on what we call a seek and destroy mission, because this is still 8 days after the initial fire, and we're still finding embers, open flames. And if there's wind that picks up on that, it can create another fire. And so this process is tedious. It takes a long time. And that's why a lot of the times the evacuations are kept in place for a long time. It's because we need to be able to get in and ensure that all these hazards are mitigated. So the aftermath here, once the TFR was lifted, we had a friend that went and flew the area and took some pictures of the widespread destruction of the Palisades fire. So this is looking from the coast up from Will Rogers into the Palisades. So lastly, what I wanted to do to really drive this home is we set up a camera in our fire engine, and then we had a drone fly above the fire engine, and we drove some of our tight streets in Laguna. And I want you guys as residents to take a view of this and really understand the importance of why it's so important to evacuate when you are asked to evacuate. We've got to get into these structures. We've got to get into these communities to ensure that everybody's out, because that's our operational objectives, is life and property. And if we are hampered and can't get in, then we can't meet those operational objectives. Sarah, would you mind playing that? We sped it up a little bit because it was about a 15-minute video, but this just gives you an idea. This is about a 4-minute video. And we went and drove Bluebird Canyon. We went and drove like Coast View area, and we went and drove Cianothus down in South Laguna. But obviously, this is just a small sample of Laguna Beach in general. And this was a day that we weren't having to contend with a lot of Amazon trucks, trash trucks, mail. Obviously, in a conflagration, residents trying to evacuate as we are trying to get in. Here's Coast View. So imagine, 40, 50 homes on Coast View, people trying to get out as we're trying to get in to put out a fire or to get somebody out who's called and needs our assistance. And remember, this is one fire engine. As I showed you in our initial dispatch of a vegetation fire in a high watershed, we're getting 50 to 70 pieces of apparatus immediately. And then an hour or so later, because of our mass mutual aid system, we're getting strike teams of engines, multiple. I think we had an Amazon truck there on the right, and then somebody coming down the hairpin turn right in front of us. And this is perfect condition days. This is the middle of the day. There's no fire. There's not people panicking. There's not smoke, decreased visibility. This is we got lucky that there was actually somebody in that vehicle that moved so that we could do about a 20-point turnaround. So we didn't have to back out the rest of the way. That's right. So I think we understand that. So in our closing remarks here, the Palisades, Eaton, Lahaina, and Paradise Fire are a stark reminder that wildfires can happen anytime and cause catastrophic damage to communities. And ensuring that we learn from these incidents and continue to our proactive approach to the wildfire dangers we face will inevitably help create a safer and more prepared community. And I've been extremely impressed by the Wildfire Mitigation and Fire Safety Ad Hoc Committee, and we presented to them last week on kind of an after action review and lessons learned. And it's great to see the level of engagement. But fires of this magnitude affect all internal and external stakeholders, and it's imperative that we continue to work in unison to address this threat. And what I've asked the residents is to spread the word to your neighbors. This isn't just about me, this is about everybody here. And if everybody can get on the same page, we can have a more resilient community and get involved, become a member of our CERT program to truly understand what it is that we deal with and the impacts that the CERT can have on the community, because I think that if you become more involved and more engaged, it just leads to a more proactive and well-rounded, safer community. So with that, thank you.
All right, thank you, everybody. So now that we've heard from Captain Carey and Captain Hammond about the realities of our evacuations, we want to go over alert and warning. It's incredibly important that the city is able to reach our residents quickly with accurate and vetted information. And so we have 5 systems that allow us to do that. Why do we have 5? Well, because redundancy and variety is incredibly important when it comes to alert and warning systems during an emergency. So all of the 5 systems I'll go through are located on our city website. You can see the URL down at the bottom on all of the slides. So you can find this information at any time, and I encourage you to share it with your friends, your family, your neighbors, your coworkers, and really anyone that will listen to you talk about it. So of the 5 systems, 2 of them you do need to register to be able to get the alerts. Our first is our Nixle alert system, text-based alerts, and all you have to do is text the city zip code 92651 to 888-777. So very simple to sign up for that. The next is the Alert OC Emergency Alert System. This is a county-owned system that every city in the county has the ability to utilize. And the neat part about this is that you can register multiple addresses within Laguna Beach and outside. So if you live here but you work outside of the city, you can register multiple addresses, and you'll receive alerts depending on where the emergency is via email, text, and phone call. So again, redundancy. So we ask that you register for both systems. The remaining systems you don't need to register for, but it's incredibly important for you to know what they look like and how you'll receive them should we send them out to you. The first is the wireless emergency alert system. So these are called WIA alerts, similar to Amber alerts or National Weather Service alerts. We have the ability to push these to your cell phone, and even if your phone is on silent, it will go off. It'll be a loud tone with a vibration. So you probably received these before. But we have the ability to do that as well. The next is the emergency alert system, which is known as EAS, and this is run by the county, but we can request that they send this. This is that alert that scrolls across your TV or it comes over the radio. So again, redundancy. If we don't have access to cell phones and cell towers, we can still hit you if you're watching TV or listening to a radio, which is important. And then finally, we have a very robust outdoor warning system. Laguna Beach's outdoor warning system is the best one I've seen in the county. Most coastal cities only have the sirens along the beaches, and we have them all throughout the city. So there's a total of 23 sirens, and they're not just noise, but we can audio record our voices and give you actual instructions. So when you hear the siren go off, we can follow it up with exactly what you're supposed to do, whether it's evacuate, shelter in place, really whatever it is. And again, this will work regardless of if your cell phone is on, you're watching TV, if you're asleep, whatever it is, we have the ability to alert you. Other ways to stay informed that aren't technically alert and warning, but very important should we have an emergency and you should be following, is always the city website. Anytime we have a large scale emergency, a lot of critical information will be posted to the website. Other vetted and accurate sources of information would be official City of Laguna Beach social media channels. So if you're already on Instagram and Facebook, Twitter, we think it's a good idea to follow these various accounts, which again are all listed on the city's website, but it's your police department, your fire department, the city's main channel. And so we recommend just giving them a follow so when the time comes, you're receiving, again, critical emergency information. So now I'm going to turn it over to Captain Peters, who's going to follow up with more information on evacuations.
Hi. So by the way, our fire captains did an amazing job. I wish that they could actually. What you didn't see is it's hard to recognize how difficult that was to drive that engine at the speed they played that video. Because it looks like they're driving normal speed. They're not. And when I first saw the video, I was getting the heebie-jeebies. I was like, you're gonna hit something. That should by itself set the precedent for anybody who's watching, anybody out there to see that this city is one of the most beautiful cities that I've ever been in, but it's also a difficult place to get out of fast. And the panic that they were talking about, also known as the fog of war, it affects us all. And it doesn't matter what you're doing. Seasoned firefighters, seasoned police officers, military personnel, they all go through it. But the best way to clear that fog of war is to be prepared. And that is what assists in getting rid of that panic. It allows you to have clarity. It allows you to take some of the friction out of the moment and clear your mind. But the only way to do that is being prepared. From a law enforcement, from a police department standpoint, we do that through review of, our city emergency plan, the evacuation section, the evacuation time study. It's 470 some odd pages. The city invested a lot of money and time in that. Take time to click on that and take a look at it, read it, at least read the executive summary. You'll recognize how difficult it can be to evacuate this beautiful city. We have field guide evacuation checklists that our personnel have. And then they go through extensive training in incident command. They go through briefing trainings. We debrief incidents in trying to make sure that they're mentally prepared to clear the fog when the time comes. So the question comes back to you. Fire is prepared for what they have to do. Their mission is to try and corral that beast, that fire that is burning, which is not an easy thing to do when the winds are as high as they are. They are giving us intel. Our job is to try and get out to your communities and evacuate you. And it will come down to how prepared you are and how much you are actually listening to the alert warnings that are coming out. So if you think about it, we tell our officers all the time, do not have bravado, do not have ego. Just because you think you're trained, you think you're ready, you're not ready. So train and do what you need to do. Be prepared. Our officers have brush jackets. They have fire type jackets to keep embers off them from lighting them on fire. Luckily, we don't wear wool that much anymore, so we're not as flammable. But we've given them the tools to protect themselves long enough to evacuate you. But you have, as citizens, you have a part in this. And you're a large cog in the wheel if you choose not to take what fire has asked and what I'm about to show you. So in the evacuations, and those of you that don't know me, I was blessed to come to this city about 2 years ago. I did 28 years with the Sheriff's Department. So in my 28 years, as you understand mutual aid, the Sheriff's Department flows into many cities, out of county, out of everywhere, in an effort to help with evacuations. And evacuations are the same everywhere you go. And I don't mean to spoil anybody's thought process, but you're not going to fight your fire with the garden hose. You're just not. And everywhere you go, no matter what fires I've been to in my career, it's always the same. People think they're going to fight the fires with their fire hose until they realize that that fire is actually pretty darn scary as it's coming when those flames are as high as they are. I mean, I like to tease fire personnel as much as anybody, but that's some scary stuff. And when you're standing on your roof watching it come and your trickle comes out of your fire hose, out of your garden hose, it's not working and you're wasting time. You're wasting time, you're wasting personnel's efforts. So if we look at the city's website, this city did a phenomenal job on their website. That little search menu, if you type in evacuations, we're going to go to the next slide off, and that's going to pull up this. And you click on that very top one, evacuation maps and routes. Go ahead. And it's going to take you to this. This is so user-friendly that when I first got here, I was like, wow, I love this. This is fantastic. And I just picked top of the world for this demonstration. You click on top of the world, and it brings up maps for you to figure out how to get out. I can't echo the captain's what he said more than anything. If you're not driving multiple ways out of your neighborhood on a regular basis, you're cheating yourself. You're cheating yourself because you get stuck driving the same way. And if a power line goes down, a tree goes down, a car accident happens, somebody's car breaks down, anything happens that could shut down that evacuation route. So if you've driven other ways, you know how to get out of your neighborhood. Now, let's say in some of your cases, there's only one way out. That means you should move faster. That means you should have your go bag ready. That means you should know where your medications are, where your documents are, maybe even scanned all of your most important old photos and have them on a hard drive and be ready to go. Fire's going to provide us some information. We will get a red flag warning either from Sarah or Chief King, and they'll let us know we're coming into red flag time. It's at that time, the PD has a checklist that we go down this checklist, and this checklist increases our staffing. It causes parking restrictions on a few of the roadways that I know that they are evaluating more of those parking restrictions now as we talk. Our personnel review those evacuation plans. We have 13 traffic control points in the city that our personnel are well aware of. They're all on the 3 major ways out of this city. You have to understand that it is critical that when fire tells us we've got something, that we marry up to fire. Now, fire, they're running the show, but we marry up to them in what's called unified command. And they're giving us intel. We don't know the math. We don't know the movement of this beast, but they do. And so they're going to tell us that this is heading towards this direction. And you've got 2 hours. You've got 3 hours. Sarah jumps on it. The system is sending out those notifications. You guys are getting notifications. Whoever is married up to the unified command, that sergeant, that lieutenant, me, is immediately splitting our forces in half. Half is going to start to go to those traffic control points and start sending traffic out of the city. The other half is going to the locations to evacuate. They're going to get on their PA systems, depending on how many we have. They're going to get on their PA systems and they're going to start verbally over the PA systems telling people to start evacuating. When that's not working, our personnel are going to get out of their cars and they're going to go door to door knocking on your door. And they're going to try and move you along and get you out of those locations. Now, you'd be surprised how many people tell us, I'm not leaving. I'm not leaving. And then 10 minutes before, fire's there with all of their giant apparatus, and we're there trying to keep our hair from, it's a joke. It's not there. Trying to keep our hair from catching on fire. And now they want to leave. Now they want to leave. And now we have other problems. Now we have people that are called shadows. They're shadow evacuees, that they're not in the evacuated area, but they're evacuating. So they are now clogging the arteries too. We have traffic accidents. We have all of these unknowns that we can't prepare for happening at that one time. So that marriage between PD and fire is critical. And from there, we go in, and the EOC is stood up at that point. And Sarah does her due diligence as far as getting mutual aid coming to the location. Dana Point, the sheriff's office, is shutting down ingress into the city. Irvine and CHP shutting down ingress coming into the city. Newport shutting down ingress coming to the city and egress going out. We're doing everything we can to get there in, so you can see that everything is happening within minutes. And we are playing our part. We are following our checklists. Is the community following theirs? Because that's when the hiccup happens, when the community hasn't jumped on board and started to follow into that situation. And then they want to get back in to where they were because they forgot something. So again, it's critical that we all follow our own checklists. The mutual aid, as far as internal into the city, I know people always ask. We have, let's say it happens at night. I know that Marine Safety has 6 lifeguards on duty. They can split up into 6 different vehicles with lights, and they can assist us with traffic. We have a lot of personnel. We have public works that can assist us with traffic. This city is so well prepared, but it doesn't matter if everybody's not prepared, if the citizens are not well prepared, because it will slow the process down if the citizens aren't as prepared or trying to be as prepared. So once you get to the evacuations and you look at what pops up, in this case for the top of the world, one more slide. The ready, set, go. It's just as the captains had talked about, it's just a hint process for you. This website is littered with great information for you to click on and read. The city has done a great job, even something that I can follow, and I am not the most technically savvy. Ask my boss, but he didn't hire me for that. One more. So anyways, I'll go through this real fast. I apologize. This would be our plan, so you recognize what we are doing. You need to understand fire they have their mission, and we're not getting in the way of fire. And they're not doing the evacuations. They're trying to curtail the beast that's coming, and we are trying to get out in front of it and evacuate. So when those warnings come to your phone, to your TV, down the roadway from our loudspeakers, don't wait. Grab the things that are important to you. Grab your pets, grab your medicine, grab your documents, grab your hard drive of pictures. Jump in your car and leave. I know that many of you have worked so hard for your houses and to live in this beautiful community, and it's not worth your life. So help us help you. Be prepared, ready, set, go, and let's do it in the most effective, efficient, and safe way we can. One more. I put this in here just for everybody. If it can happen, it will. And that's something that I always tell our young officers, that if it can happen, it will happen. And so if you can imagine it, then it's a possibility. And because of that, the only way we can do it is to be adaptable, flexible, and move for success. As things block roadways, I implore our officers, those in the field, figure out a way to move them. Figure out a way to clear it so we can do our job and protect this community. So that's it for me.
All right, so now we're going to move into the question and answer portion. If you have a question, you can come up to the podium and we'll ask you to use the microphone. Thank you.
Matt Lawson, I think some of you know I've been involved in some of these issues for a while. I live up in Diamond Crestview, AKA South Central Laguna Beach. We have one way in and one way out, and my wife and I have a simple protocol. If we learn of a fire anywhere in or near the city of Laguna Beach, our go bags go in the car, we go in the car, and we go out the one way we have to get out of here. In the event of a serious red flag condition, particularly a PDS condition like we had in early January, I don't understand why the city does not adopt a policy equivalent to those that are very common on barrier islands in Florida, because that's where we live. We live on a barrier island. a peninsula on a peninsula, if you will, like not too different from the one we used to have a place on in not in the general area of St. Petersburg. 3 days, but you don't wait for the hurricane to show up offshore. Oh, there it is. It'll be ashore in two hours. It's time to leave. You leave 2 or 3 days ahead of time when you can get out easily and be somewhere else. And the beautiful thing about fires is you don't have to evacuate 300 miles or 400 or 500 miles. You just got to get to be outside the city of Laguna Beach. And I think for people, particularly who are those who are a little older, and I no longer refer to the seniors as they, I think it's a good strategy to think about in the event of a red flag coming down the pike, to maybe think about being somewhere else, because you have very little time to get out. And the people who are reluctant to leave, to me, that's kind of what Darwin wrote about. It's that simple. And by the way, I lived in Pacific Palisades for 7 years when I first came to California, right on Paseo Miramar above San Ynez Canyon. I hiked almost every weekend on that fire road, which is the point of origin of the fire, probably. And I understand from people we know who still live there that there is a reasonable likelihood that the LAFD didn't do proper overhaul of that New Year's Eve fire that happened just a week prior to this one, and maybe they didn't get out all of those embers that were kind of buried under the vegetation that were kind of reignited and kind of brought back to life by those hurricane force winds. I don't know what happened, and it may be some time before we do, but thank God that, I know darn well, I do know one thing. In the event if we have a similar situation here in Laguna Beach, our mayor is not going to be in Africa. And our city leadership is going to be all over this, which clearly they were not in LA, and we saw what happened as a result of that. But we have to communicate to everyone who lives in Laguna Beach that what happened there could happen here, that on any given day we're a spark and a gust away from becoming Paradise or Lahaina or Pacific Palisades. And I hope Bob and Sue, when they come back with their second iteration of the Wildfire Mitigation and Fire Safety Report, take a very serious view of our emergency circulation issues, because we've got a lot of people who think it's their God-given right to park their full-size pickups and SUVs on their 14 to 16-foot wide streets and, wait to see the fire before they think about leaving. And it makes it very, very difficult for you guys to do your jobs and for PD to do their jobs, and it makes it very dangerous for our first responders and for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, go ahead and come on up.
I want to apologize. I saw the message just now, so I ran in. And I thought it was the city council meeting, but I guess not. It bothers me every time it's out of Laguna in the afternoon. It was the best evacuation if you have 2 lanes. I'm sorry if I repeat for somebody else said already before, but this is always a question. You cannot go out of here fast enough if you have only 1 lane out. And I don't know if you can do anything about it, but I don't know. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
That's called counterflow, and it's if you're talking about opening up more lanes and the inbound lanes, it's not as effective as people think it is, and it has its own difficulties when you do that, especially getting more apparatuses in while traffic is coming at them, as opposed to closing down ingress. So it doesn't, if you look at the time study, it actually talks about it in the time study. It does not speed up the flow of traffic that quick. And in fact, if we turned the Coast Highway into all lanes going out, those lanes will eventually have to come down and squeeze in. And it doesn't speed it up as much as you thought it would be. And it makes it harder for us to get in mutual aid.
I was talking about going in the county.
Correct. It's a counterflow is what you're talking, right? Correct? Being the lanes coming in, turning them going out.
I don't mind waiting a little longer to leave. If you have a fire, you want to leave. And also after the 4th of July, the fireworks, they opened 2 lanes going out, and it went just like that. It went very fast to go out.
Go ahead. Did you want to answer, sir?
So you're talking about using the 2-way left-hand turn lane for outbound traffic. You're talking about using the 2-way left-hand turn lane for outbound traffic.
No, just adding a lane to go out.
Yeah,
That's the only thing that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I mean, coming in sometimes it's slow.
Yeah.
But it's okay. But going out in the fire, you won't come in. If there is a fire, you won't come in. But
Okay.
going out to make it faster to go out, I think that's the main issue here. Okay.
it's
thank you.
it's a great idea. It's a long process and a lot of considerations.
I live here 52 years already. And they will start thinking about it.
We appreciate it though. Yep.
And we appreciate you. Just really want to thank you for all the preparedness that you're educating us about. I recently held a meeting in our home, 45 people, many of you were there actually, attended. And what we came away with is that evacuation is up to us. We're aware of that. We didn't get any emergency alerts. When SCE closed down the lines, they were linked to the cell phone towers. And so we would have been toast had we've been dependent on those. And the issue we came away with is not so much that we're not willing to go, but we need more training about how to go. So if we're going down Alta Vista, which is my assigned route, which I will tell you now that I won't obey, and any car gets stuck or all of the way, I mean, it's just too narrow a road for any of us to really try to navigate on a good day. What are we to do? If someone's stalled in front of us and we've got, you know, in the 93 fire, what used to take 3 minutes to get from where I was down to Nice took 2 hours and 15 minutes. Are we to leave the cars because a car is stuck? What are you wanting us to do and help us know what our choices are? I had fire come out and look at our home and they said, don't go down Nice if you have a choice because it's a fire wind tunnel. Well, if I'm not going down Nice and I'm not going down Alta Vista and Bluebird Canyon is emptying, and it takes 4 hours on a good day, and we're already 2.5 hours waiting just to try to get down our one street. What choices do residents have? What are our alternatives to, as best we can, protect our lives? I mean, my anxiety level obviously is alerted even more than ordinarily because I do know the consequences here, and we are in a very, very precarious position, and we need more help to know how to navigate in the preparedness, not just in our go bag, but to how to psychologically hold ourselves steady when the wires are down, when the cars are stalled. What are we to do, even if we're compliant? Thank you.
I'll try and tackle that one. Handling individual what ifs is difficult for us because, to be honest with you, I don't know what the circumstances is. Can one of our units push that stalled vehicle out of the way with our push bars? What you see what I'm saying though? We can play what if every day. We would have to figure out that specific circumstance and when it stopped and look at your alternatives. You could be right. You could get jammed in behind somebody and everybody's jammed in, and our personnel would have to start backing people out to try and re-push them. It's an amazing amount of what ifs that we would have to do, and that is that fog of war that I'm talking about that you fell into in here by watching that with the anxiety. So I'm proud of you that you fell into that, and now you're trying to clear it. You're trying to figure out what would I do? And that's critical for you as a person to play that mental game with yourself and go down that roadway. And just for a brief second, if nobody's behind you, stop and look around. I tell my officers all the time, if a suspect's in front of you and something happens and it's a critical situation, what do you do? If shots are fired in this location, stop their car, what do you do? So it's the same thing you just talked about. You're going halfway down and a car stalls or an accident happens in front of you, what do you do? So run that through your scenario just as my officers would do. If that does happen, what would they do? And so would they have the ability to back people out? Not sure. Would they have the ability to leave those cars there? Are those cars going to block fire? What would they do? Do we have the ability to bring public works in and just like Palisades did, push the cars out of the way with the bulldozer? So there are a lot of what if answers to a specific situation like that my officers would go through at the exact same time that you're going through it. Maybe it is an evacuation situation where we take you out of the cars and we use our trolley system to start moving people out. There is ways that we'd have to work as a team, it's not specific just law enforcement or just fire. There are ways that we would have to work as a team, as a community entity, to successfully get this done. So the faster that everybody in the community can start to clear that fog and don't panic, because the moment you panic and you try and drive over the curb line and through people's yards and things of that nature is the moment that we made a small problem a big problem. So in that situation, officers would be responding, whether it was on foot or whether it was in a vehicle, they would be responding. And I can't give you a magical answer because I can't magically widen roadways here in Laguna. You just can't do it. I've watched the city council; they do their best, but you can't do it. The way the city is built is the way the city is built, and that's what we have to work with. So, the what ifs that you might have about your individual escape routes, I want you to have those what ifs, because that means you're thinking. That means you're like, and I'll gladly talk to you a little bit more afterwards, but I appreciate the question greatly.
Sorry, before you go, I just wanted to touch on the your alert and warning concerns about the cell service. So public safety power shutoffs are a huge issue, and it's something that we're working behind the scenes with SoCal Edison on to reduce the impact and really reduce the circuits completely that get shut off. A lot of that has to do with the power lines being above ground. They're concerned the wind will cause a fire basically caused by their power line. So they're preemptively shut it off. So the city knows that's an issue. That's something that we're really working on with them. But just know that the outdoor warning system is a redundancy to your cell phone. So we have those sirens, they reach everywhere in the city. So just know that we have that as a redundancy. So if your cell phone isn't working, we do have a power outage or a service interruption. We have that. And then we have the old school, going door to door, knocking, siren systems. So,
The units have PA systems, high-low systems to send different signals out to get people's attention. Then the officers put the warnings over their PA systems, moving people. Things I don't want you to think that in most cases, you're not going to just have 20 minutes to evacuate 10,000 people. That's kind of an impossibility. You're going to have fire telling us we've got a problem and fire's moving that direction. Let's get these communities evacuated. And that's where we're going to start. So I don't want it to send too much panic your way. You're going to have a little bit of time.
And lastly, just on that, a lot of us got rid of our landline phones a long time ago, but that's another redundancy if that's a possibility. And we have the ability to basically, it's called reverse 911, where we can call all landline phones. We have them already in a system and we can do that. So I know it's antiquated technology in some ways, but really it's a good way to go, especially if we have an earthquake, even beyond a wildfire. So there's also that, if that's an option for you.
A lot of great questions with not a lot of good answers. It's going to be situational. But what I do know is that when you hear the warning or the order, leave. It's those communities that are holding on, that the fire comes very quickly, and then they want to evacuate, and they all want to evacuate at the same time. During the Emerald Fire, then Mayor Sue Kemp and I did a windshield survey of the roadway after we gave the evacuation order in Emerald Bay. And we drove down from the station here, and there were no cars on the roadway. Nobody was leaving. Completely empty. Yeah, that was Matt Lawson. Yeah. But it's that time when the fire is coming close to the homes where everybody panics and then everybody wants to leave at the same time is what causes congestion on the roadway. So, but when you hear the warning or the order, please pack up and leave your home. I mean, that's the best advice to get around the situation that you're talking about. Because if you're late to the game and you're leaving late, you're gonna get caught behind traffic.
Thank you. My name, excuse me, is Penelope Milne, and I'm the president of CAN DO, the Canyon Alliance of Neighborhoods Defense Organization. And I want to, I will say several things, but I really want to start with, thank you so much. I mean, we certainly have had more than one preparedness meeting, but I really think that the information and quality and the combination of like motivation and information today was really superb. I'm sorry that more of my community weren't here, but I understand that this is being recorded and I'm looking forward to getting that link. We'll put it on a tab on our website. We'll send out our mailer to our mailing list and we'll see if we can't get, you know, more people to profit from this combination of information because, you know, really well done, and I really appreciate that. So I do have, if you'll indulge me, a couple of small, maybe preparedness, like, you know, help you, help us, help, and that is on the evacuation maps. And then I have a couple of questions. Would it be possible to go back and look at the evacuation maps for a second? So I have a couple of things. One is if we can look at 5, which is Boat Canyon, the evacuation area 5. The map for that?
You know, this is just the PowerPoint, so we only have top of the world up right now.
Oh, okay,
but
sorry. I thought that it.
Let
you
me
had to
see
look
if
at
I
the
can
link, but-
pull it up while
Sure,
you're asking.
Okay, so so it'll make it probably is easier to picture if I'm not just saying it, but I will just say it. So in that the map, especially the section 5, which is Boat Canyon, there's an error in the map, a fairly egregious one, and I worry that people who are already confused and worried about maps and confused and worried on that day, that they don't need any extra confusion. And the confusion is this: it says that Aliso and Woods Canyon Wilderness Park directly abuts North Laguna. It lists both Aliso and Woods Canyon and Laguna Coast Wilderness Park as being present there. And of course, Aliso and Woods Canyon Wilderness Park is miles away to the east. So, you know, again, how that wound up on the map in the first place, I will say, I think the first edition, I'm pretty sure that the city hired a contractor because I talked to the fire department then. And the first edition of the map had like several errors that I think were related to somebody who doesn't know the area drawing the map, you know. And I made a comment on a couple of them at the time and the city changed them. I didn't look at that one because, you know, we sort of shepherd the canyon. But then when I did look at it, I was like, oh, wait. That ain't right. So again, it might not make any difference to anybody, but people who worry about maps, people who are confused by maps, if they see something that's actually miles away from where they are. So we could probably fix that. So here's my second suggestion about mapping. We have discussed this more than once at a CAN DO meeting, and that is 2 of the, as you head out the canyon, the outer evacuation areas, one is called El Toro, and the other one is called Club Laguna, further out the canyon, okay? So we think that when you say, and again, it'll make more sense if you can see it, but we think that when people hear El Toro, that's the area that's going to evacuate, the El Toro area, that people who live along El Toro in the Artisan, the Terraces, and Club Laguna, and California Cove will think you mean them. But in fact, the El Toro area is named El Toro is the Sun Valley area on Laguna Canyon Road that doesn't have access to El Toro. I mean, it's a major road nearby, right? But they don't drive out onto it. So we think that when people hear El Toro, the people who actually live on El Toro will think you mean them to evacuate. Their area, conversely, is called Club Laguna. So Club Laguna was the name of the apartment complex that was there about a decade ago. And then for maybe a couple of years after the apartment complex changed its name, there was still a street there called Club Laguna, but that changed about 9 years ago, like before this map was drawn. So a lot of people who live there now, when you say Club Laguna, they don't know what you're talking about because there's nothing there called Club Laguna. And in fact, we think that because there is a canyon club in the Sun Valley area, that when you say El Toro, right, the people on El Toro will evacuate. And when you say Canyon Club, the people in Sun Valley will evacuate. We think that it'll be flipped. Now, maybe you're going to do numbers, maybe a whole lot of things, but I don't know what the possibility is to change those names, but I think that would give additional clarity that, and, you know, like, erasing Elisa Woods Canyon. So I apologize for taking time. I do want to, these are things that other people have said or close to said. So, but what does happen if a utility pole with cell phone equipment is down? Is there any option for backups? Perhaps not. I have experienced that personally because in 2015, when we had that fire, July 5, 2015, and Arroyo, the power pole came down and a transformer blew up, fire started up the hill. Okay, we were trapped on my street by power lines that were down. And because the power line, the utility poles were affected and the transformer was down, we didn't have a cell phone sort of boost. And there was one spot in my yard, like you sort of had to climb onto a rock, you know, and it was a little tension producing, like the extraordinarily nice police officer who was stationed at our street to make sure that we didn't like kill ourselves walking on the power wire kept on saying things to me like, wow, I sure wish you could leave. Look at fire spreading on Canyon. By the second or third time, he was like, wow, I sure wish you had a way out. You're kind of like, buddy, that's maybe not as helpful as you think it is right now. Like, me too, thanks. But I also couldn't call out to other people very well or get information. So, you know, I don't know that there's a solution to that, but if there is, that would be good. And yeah, narrow streets, again, I get we can't remodel Laguna Beach. I believe that the access report identified 2 streets in Laguna Beach as being significantly access impaired. One was Bluebird, the other was Canyon Acres. 3. Okay, Diamond Crestview, okay. Okay, yeah, and I would say we haven't either. I've been home when listening for it and have not been able to hear. Sometimes I can hear that there is an announcement, but not what it is. And sometimes I can't hear that there's an announcement. So anyway, again, I get that not everything is possible, that the things that we selected for this topography because we love it are also the things that'll trap us. I get it. Miracles are not possible. And honestly, you'd probably get a bunch of pushback if you were like, well, then let's widen Canyon Acres. And we'd all be like, no, fix it, but not that way. So I don't know if there are any strategies for better access. I do think one of them, though, like right now, you would not, like with nothing going on, you would not be able to get a fire engine down my street. Like there's no way. The street is so narrow. And then people park on the street. Like the garbage truck, they have to send a guy ahead of it and sometimes stop and get people to move. And then they have to back up the whole street because they can't turn. So, you know, and I mean, like that's on a good day when it's not a big vehicle. Anyway, but just to finish with how I started, thank you so much. I know the city has done a lot of things, but I think that this is particularly useful today, and I look forward to sharing it with others.
Thanks, Penelope. A couple of things. Sarah is our brand new emergency operations coordinator. She came from Aliso Viejo. She comes with a tremendous amount of experience. So she'll be going over our evacuation plans. And this is good feedback. I was around when Club Laguna was around, so I understand what you're saying. It's the artisan now, and people might not understand that. So she'll take a good look at the names of those evacuation zones. It's a great suggestion. And then the outdoor warning system. We've done, I guess, called gap analysis in the past. We're going to do it again, meaning that we're going to figure out how far the outdoor warning system reaches in certain zones. The challenges for the system are infrastructure. Power is obviously number one. So when we do identify those gaps, trying to get additional systems in those places may be challenging, but we are going to work on identifying the gaps in the city. Yep.
Can I add to that as well? Another thing with the outdoor warning system that we're looking at is a regularly scheduled test of the system for the public. Not too frequently where it becomes a burden on anyone, but we want to test it. We want the public to understand what it sounds like you're saying. I think I heard it, I'm not sure. We want it to be very clear to our residents and, business owners and people who come to the city what it is and what it sounds like. So that's something that we're looking at implementing. And like the chief said, thank you for the feedback on the maps. That's one of my top priorities is to update those maps. So if you ever have feedback, if you notice errors, let us know so we can get those updated even, before the next 5-year iteration. We can make those updates sooner. So appreciate the feedback. Yes, I'll get you my contact information. And this will be posted on the city website for you to share. Thanks.
Good evening, everybody. Sonny Myers. First of all, thank you, each and every one of you, for your service to our city. I've had the pleasure of working alongside of you in my volunteer role with CERT and also on EDPC, and it's been one of the greatest honors of my life to be able to give back to this city. And I was really pleased to see the notice about joining the CERT program. CERT has really been something that we've run about 300 people through the system, and that will give you the situational awareness and reduce that fog of war, because we train all the time in CERT for those kind of problems. 32 years ago, many of us experienced the fire up in here, and I had to evacuate my parents, my wife's parents, and my uncle. We lost homes, and we sat in our driveway on Solana Way with the garage door open for 4 hours watching people coming down the hill with birds and rugs and dogs in their cars. I never want to see that again. So my questions. First of all, I have 3. Are we working on some more parking restricted areas for Red Flag Day? Because we do CERT Red Flag where we do static and also drive patrols with the Laguna Coast Fire Safe Council as well during red flag conditions. So we have many more parking difficult parking areas in town. There's many more than just Diamond Crestview and many more than Bluebird. My street went one way and no parking on one side several years ago. It was the best thing we ever did. You guys used to stop right in front of my house and carry gear 500 feet up to houses because you could not get the rig up there. And I'd sit there at 2 o'clock in the morning, watch you push a gurney up and carry your oxygen. That's no good, because one of these days it might be me. So we fixed that. My second question is do we have an update when Laguna Canyon Road is finally going to get finished? They need to finish that road, and whatever we can do as a city, we need to tell Caltrans to pull their hands out of their pockets and quit leaning on shovels and finish that road. It's dangerous. Third, which I've been working on through CERT and through some of my neighbors, is are we doing anything about Firewise neighborhoods? Firewise is a nationally recognized organization where you get together and get your neighbors together and you do your brush clearance, you do your gutters, you trim your trees. There's no way, Captain, that we can follow the 5, 50, 100-foot rule. I don't have 100 feet to my neighbors. I have 8 feet to my neighbors. And she grows junipers 30 feet tall I can't touch. So I do everything I can on my property. So I think the city can push out a little bit more about Firewise and at least have people think about it. I think it's a worthwhile endeavor if we can get, and the neighborhoods can be as small as 8 to 10 houses. They don't have to be 500, 600 houses. And doing that is so we can hopefully avoid non-renewal for our insurance. And that's a burden when I can't get insurance on my rentals, which I rely on for my retirement income. And if that goes away, I'm pounding nails again. I'm done doing that. I did it for 40 years, but I don't want to go back to work. And the third question, Firewise, the canyon, and parking. That's it. So, and take a CERT class. It's free and it's fun. And you'll get to meet Sarah and a bunch of our CERT volunteers. All right? Thank you.
So Captain Peters and I sit on the Wildland Fire Mitigation and Fire Safety Subcommittee. The subcommittee recently met. We're talking about Firewise communities and what it would take for us to move in that direction. We're also examining access impaired neighborhoods for parking restrictions, and I know that is a priority in our community. So that's going to happen sooner than later. LCR, I think I'm shooting from the hip here a little bit, but I think I heard that they're going to be done with the undergrounding before summer. City manager? Yeah.
They should be done before summer, yes.
Okay.
That's a dangerous quarter mile
Yeah.
of road.
Yeah.
They- The reason why there was a delay is because they got deployed to LA. So all those crews got pulled from here and they were sent up to LA to help with the power lines that were down up there. So understandably, it's delayed, but our understanding is it's supposed to be done before summer. Yeah.
Two questions or clarifications, I guess. I think I've got it, but when the power is out, whether Edison turns it off or SDG&E, what still, of the warning stuff, what still works? Do the sirens work? You mentioned landlines, but a lot of people are VoIP. It's not the copper wire anymore. So what else? Yeah, so what'll still work? And we don't hear the siren, by the way. We're only 2 blocks of the fire station. The fire stations have their own backup power, right? You got so do they have power to run the sirens, for example? So I guess that's really what's going to work when the power's out and the warning stuff.
Yeah, it's the outdoor warning system. The sirens do have battery backup.
Okay.
Excuse me. And they're also, they can utilize satellites as well. So those are a redundant system that should work. And then we will go back again to the old school door knocking, high-low sirens. If it goes, I mean, if technology stops working, we have redundancies, but that's really the last ditch effort is the sirens on the vehicles, the knocking on the doors.
Okay.
And beyond police vehicles, it's fire engines, it's our marine safety vehicles, you know, it's the mutual aid that will come in. But yeah, the technology, it can go so far and then we go back to that.
Okay.
So.
And the other clarification on the evacuation, I'm convinced, great job. I'm convinced I'm leaving as soon as you tell me to go. But I thought the game plan with the zones was you didn't want everybody to go at once, that you wanted us to go by zones. So
That's the shadow evacuees that I was talking
yes,
about.
that's a question. Do I go when at the very earliest, or am I supposed to not get into traffic so that the guys that are closer to being burned up can actually get out?
Right.
Even
And
though I'm not at risk of burning up for a while. Do I wait for them?
that's such a
politely?
harsh way to look at it,
Yeah,
burning up.
And then the other one too, nobody talks about, is this is great for the people who are living here and people that, but you know, the fire is going to happen on a beautiful, sunny, hot day with lots of tourists. So other than, you know, you guys with the megaphones and stuff talking to tourists, how do you coordinate that so all the tourists either don't go or all go at once, or some, you know, what are you going to do? So
I'll answer, and I know the chief will answer much more eloquently. If it can happen, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And we will deal with it when it happens. And we will adjust and overcome. We cannot, the hope in a perfect world, we would hit our zone and it would waterfall. The evac would happen from the closest area to burn all the way down to the bottom level of that zone, and it would go in an orderly fashion. But I'm telling you right now, that's not how it will work. And we are expecting, even the time study talks about shadow evacuees. We're expecting that to happen, that people are just going to go, nope, I'm out. And then if it does happen on a sunny day in the middle of summer and we've got another 30,000 people here in the city at our beaches and enjoying Laguna Beach, it's one of those things that we can do as much as we can with the what ifs. The bottom line is we will be out moving people. And in a perfect world, yeah, we would like you to evacuate in an orderly fashion.
okay.
But in all sincerity, the fog of war, people will react how they want to react. And we as law enforcement and fire will have to adjust and be flexible in our management of those people to get them out safely.
I do have one suggestion. We live south, so we're going to go south. So
Just
if
don't
you
get in
just
your
send the
way.
tourists north.
Okay,
that-
just don't get in your
that
way
goes
and don't put
south.
anybody else in.
John, my concern is that nobody evacuates. And that's what we've been seeing over and over again. That's what they saw in the Palisades. People are not leaving their homes. They're hunkering down and they're not leaving. So, in the event we have a condition where we have a lot of tourists in town, there's only so much capacity on our roadways. We will bring in mutual aid immediately. So we'll have, sheriff's deputies here helping to direct traffic, but it's still going to take a long time to get people out of town. Yeah. Yeah. And the roadways haven't changed since 93.
Hi, Monica McDade. I'm new with the Boys and Girls Club. Thank you for all you do. One observation and one question. I have gone through many fires. They're scary. The adrenaline is petrifying, and preparedness and talking about it ahead of time certainly does help. My family was involved with, impacted by the Ulapalakua fire. There were 4 fires, not just Lahaina. So one recommendation when you're talking to the public, remind them not to be standing there filming when the evacuation order comes down. My cousin was standing in his driveway watching the flames come toward him. And I said, why are you not leaving? You're posting this on Facebook. Get out. The question is, both my cousin and my mother were evacuated to separate places and the cell phones went out. So for hours and hours, I didn't know if my family was alive or dead. Since we are charged with caring for other people's children in especially 2 locations here in Laguna, if we can't talk to each other and we don't know the status of what's happening at the Bluebird site, I know we have an alarm on our roof, but we're going to have hundreds of parents that are panicked and don't know what's happening with their children. Today's discussion has been about residents, but I'd also like to hear the perspectives of communication with businesses.
Yeah, I can kind of touch on that. So we definitely want to encourage our businesses to have emergency plans, including communications plans. And one thing you could do if you have 2 sites is think about potentially purchasing satellite phones, which is kind of like a last ditch effort, but it would allow you to communicate between your 2 sites. Another thing that we can do is we can have kind of a business alert system where we use our Alert OC system, but basically businesses can register in there and receive information that way as well. But I highly recommend, from the Boys and Girls Club perspective, to look at your internal planning. And in my previous job, I worked with the ones in Aliso Viejo and San Juan Capistrano, and they have some really robust plans in place that address some of your concerns. And I'm happy to make that connection for you as well. But highly recommend just redundant communications, and then also just look at your planning.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And the great part is we have a outstanding relationship with the Boys and Girls Club. So they're part of our, when we're talking about evacuations, they're always part of our calculus. Annalise School, our alternative sleeping location, our animal shelter, all those entities along the canyon are sitting in the back of our mind, and we understand the danger. So we want to make sure that you're informed and that you're able to, if you're able to evacuate kids right away, so we don't get into a situation where you're not stuck in traffic on Laguna Canyon Road.
We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Do we have anyone else like to speak? Yeah.
When Penny was talking about maps, it reminded me of something, and a little reminder went off. When we were redoing the safety helmet back in 2021, it was pointed out to staff that they were using a map that had been developed 26 years earlier of impaired access roads. That was supposed to be updated when the time they came to do the 23 version of the local hazard mitigation plan. I'm not sure that happened. We may be working off an impaired access map that dates from 1995. If so, that needs to get updated, because we have the 21 study, the impaired access, the emergency evacuation time study that the chief referred to, which is excellent. I would encourage people, rather than to look at the study, which is practically incomprehensible unless you're a traffic engineer, look at the staff report that was prepared for council associated with that study, which we should post to the website, which I thought was very, very well done. I think PD did an outstanding job of that. And to speak to John's point about tourists, we had that worst day. It was July 3rd, 2015. I think Bob will probably remember that. That was kind of the beginning of our serious efforts to deal with our fire risk. Literally, we had the Laguna Canyon fire, I think it was 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, day before July 4th, on July 4th weekend. The town was literally gridlocked. We came off of Diamond Street. It took us the better part of 2.5 hours to get down to Crown Valley, and there was more traffic heading north on Coast Highway than heading south. And there was no attempt to block off the city or to do anything. We just hadn't really, we were really kind of starting from almost ground zero. And I think that underscores, I did see Supervisor Foley in the room. I don't know if she's still here or not. Well, it's too bad, because I was going to make the point that we get, as I think we all know, almost as many visitors as the entire state of Hawaii. Most of them come from Southern California, probably the bulk of them from elsewhere in Orange County. We need some outside aid to get our resources aligned with our risk, because we have an enormous amount of risk, and very often we have to deal with some of these situations that are basically a city of 100,000 or 150,000 using the resources of a city of 22,000 or 23,000. And we need some help with that, because otherwise a lot of people could get very seriously hurt who are not residents of Laguna Beach, most of them residents of elsewhere in OC or elsewhere in Southern California. So I hope we are able to arrange that. And I know Bob and Sue have been very active in reaching out to our elected representatives at the county and state and even federal level. So thank you all. I just wanted to make sure you're aware of all that. Thank you.
Let me just one last question for Matt's point. From a fire and a law perspective, we have very good, strong mutual aid agreements with the entities that would be coming in to assist us. And I was, and they're strong agreements. And I know that on the emergency management side of the house, hiring somebody like Sarah to come in with her connections to get logistic needs is a big coup for the city, and it sets us up in a very good position.
And it seems like we're coming to a close. So before we close, I just wanted to come and see what it was like to speak down from here. So no,
I wanted to sit in your seat, Bob.
yeah, just keep it warm. No, thank you guys. Great job. Sue and I have been so impressed with all the staff time and effort that's gone into our ad hoc committee. We're meeting regularly. I just want to say publicly, so everybody's aware, we're coming back to council on May 6th, and we'll have a robust set of recommendations, just as we did in 2019. And we've had a tremendous number of suggestions and input from the residents of the community. Sarah did a wonderful job kind of organizing those and categorizing those, so we didn't lose any of those. But if there are others who are listening to this or are here and you have ideas that you haven't shared, please get them into the city. And just thank you all again. Great effort.
Thanks, Bob. Okay, this concludes the meeting. Thank you all for showing up and providing your input. This is what makes our community stronger. So thank you for being here.